Welcome back. In my last video, I did not use the best wording at all when explaining this issue, and I'm going to take the opportunity now to try to explain it a little bit better. I'm still going to keep it very simplified, and I want to preface this by saying I'm not a biologist or a geneticist. I did take the introductory classes while studying for my degree, which did give me a basic understanding of the science involved here. So, genetic diversity comes pretty naturally to most of us who live in towns and cities. We know not to breed with family members, and there are multiple choices for partners or mates from other families or lineages. This means that there are a large number of genes out there to play with. Now, that does not provide 100% protection from the issues that we'll be discussing, because there is always a small chance that the person you choose could be carrying a harmful recessive gene, and that you just happen to carry it as well. It just means that it's more unlikely than it would be if you were breeding within your own family. I should also state that not all recessive genes are harmful or lethal. As one commenter pointed out, like colored eyes are caused by a recessive gene, and I don't think that we're all going to worry about somebody having lighter colored eyes. How do recessive genes work? Well, to simplify things, let's use the example that I was introduced to first in college. Let's say that both parents are carrying a recessive gene. So let's say both parents are big A, little b. We can make a little chart by putting one parent's AB down the side and one up top across. Now we can fill out the possible combinations. As you can see in this simplified version, there is only a 1 in 4 chance of both parents passing that recessive small b gene to their child. It's when this happens that you actually see the full expression of that recessive gene. People with only one recessive gene are carriers. It's not expressed because the dominant gene is expressed instead, which is why we call it recessive. There are some cases where a part of it is expressed, but in most cases it won't be. Some examples of autosomal recessive genetic disorders are cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, and Tay-Sachs. Low genetic diversity means that there are a limited number of alleles for the genes carried by that species. So many of the same genes are shared, posing issues with recessive genes. But that also means that the species is less likely to adapt to the environment changes that happen around them. Over time, the members become related to each other, and they end up inbreeding because of this. If the allele, or that little b gene in this case, has harmful mutations, and both parents pass it on to the child can be unhealthy. And if enough of these children are born and inbreed, there are less and less expressions of the non-harmful dominant gene, and more sick children. In some cases, this can actually lead to extinction of an entire species. Low genetic diversity takes place in small islands or areas that are completely cut off from new members of that species that are not related. In this case, we're talking about the Institute. Now, while they have let a couple of recruited scientists into their fold, we know of 3, including Shaun, unless we join. That is 4. Shaun has no children beyond the Synths. Most of these scientists have no children. Is that due to choice or something else? We don't really know. It being by choice really doesn't make sense, since they want to expand and grow. They see themselves as humanity's last hope. But without children, there is really little hope. They all seem obsessed with their work, and perhaps this is why. But as scientists, you'd think they'd understand that they cannot save humanity without producing offspring. Were there more children in previous generations? Recessive genes can cause infertility in human beings. That's another possibility, and might explain the small number of children present in the Institute. You also find no nurseries, no schools, nothing to hint at there being children that we're not seeing. Now, this could just be an oversight in the development of the game, but I really doubt it because we do see these things in vaults. Or it could hint at a very serious issue. Adding a couple of new people will help a little, but unless they're the only ones breeding with those who were born there, and there is no inbreeding taking place at all, which could also explain the small number of children, it would not be effective. Really, they would need a large influx of new genetic material, or to turn to creating test tube babies, artificially created humans, so that they could control the genetic material that was introduced. We see no evidence of these sorts of programs either, though. They are focused instead on creating artificial synthetic life, or synths. While they can make these almost human, they're not human. They would be a different species, and we don't know if the final generation are capable of producing offspring, or breeding with humans. Since they see them as just slaves to do their bidding, we don't really know if they even considered that as important, or perhaps they don't want them breeding at all. If they are sterile and not human, they really do nothing to help the problem. We do know that in creating the new synths, they had an issue with radiation damage that was hereditary, which was why they needed Shaun and his undamaged DNA in the first place. Remember that the founders of the Institute were exposed to some radiation and dug down into the earth. This could have caused mutations in the sperm or egg cells, which could have been passed on to their children. The truth is that we don't know for sure, but it would make sense that this was the case, since they specifically required undamaged DNA to create synthetic life. What is more concerning is that if the synthetic life was meant to live on once they died as the perfect life, they would be dooming humanity to extinction if they truly were the best hope for humanity. Luckily, there are other humans above ground, but if you choose to side with the Institute, are you choosing to doom your species to extinction in the long run? Will they wipe out anyone above ground with their experiments, controls, and disregard? We just don't know. But it is certainly an interesting conversation that we can have. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.